Okay, welcome. I'm still trying to get all of the technical stuff sorted out, of course, but we're going to go through some acting questions and emotional preparation, and we'll look at a lot of different things. Look, acting is something that absolutely is vital to be having to put emotion inside of. Emotion is something that is very, very, very tricky to be able to put in acting, and it's you're capable of putting emotion in acting if you can simply learn a couple of simple techniques. Now, every single thing here is on time delay for me. This is in real time for me, but if you're watching, um, thanks for watching. Like the like button if you would, or boop the like button, and ask me some very, very, very good acting questions. I'm covering every single thing in acting. I'm making sure that I'm leaving no stone unturned. I'm going through every single thing. I have lists of emotional preparations. I've got lists of emotions. I've got lists of independent activities for classes. So you'll never run out of ideas that actually mean stuff to you. And I've got the website running and going on emotionalpreparation.com. So let me give me some time here to figure this out. We are going to cover up, we're going to cover every single thing that we can on this channel about acting. It's vital that people understand how to be able to do this technique, and the ability to be able to do the technique is very key. Very, very, very key. It's simple enough to be able to learn how to do emotional preparation if you just learn the places where you need to have confidence in it. And then you can really figure out when you're doing it right and when you're doing it, maybe you need to make an adjustment. It's very, very normal to have adjustments in your acting techniques. Very, very common. It is extremely, extremely common. Every single person I have seen somewhere between 30,000 and 40,000 acting exercises at least. And it is key to understand that you need to develop a technique for yourself, and it's going to be your technique. It's not my technique, it's your technique. Every single person has an ability to be able to have their own acting technique. So let me do a couple things here. Okay, so we are actually absolutely doing something that's unique. It is very, very, very unique. It's very important to be willing and capable of being able to work with your emotions. So you work with your emotions so that you're capable of being able to activate those emotions. And then you take that activation and then you dive into your acting work. So you activate something that could be coming from an imaginary place, or it could be coming from a real experience or a real memory. And then you activate yourself, and then you dive into the imaginary circumstances. And diving into the imaginary circumstances over and over and over after you activate is the key. You've got to have the being side of the work first, and then you dive in to the doing side of the work. And the doing side of the work is interaction. It is absolutely interaction. You don't pontificate your emotion if you can, and sometimes it will pour out of you, of course. But you want to be able, you want to be willing to be able to have your emotion get pulled out of you from your acting partner. It's the most ideal approach to be able to have your partner pulling out your emotion. It's very, very, very important. So let's field a couple of questions. I know that live feeds I'm still working out all this stuff. It's very interesting. If you want to join as a guest, to be able to come in and do emotional preparations with me face to face, contact me. My information is on the website, or it will be on the website. It should be on the website. I will check to make sure that it is. And you will be able to join the live feed face to face, and I can actually help you access those emotions. They're in there. It's just a matter of being able to jostle enough stuff to be able to get your emotions actually coming out. Just 1 second here. This is very, it's helpful if I can do this. Here we go. Okay, so first question. First question is how to stay open to your acting partner. The question is, how do I stay open to my acting partner? Now, how do you stay open to your acting partner? This is a great question, because a lot of people act and they think that acting is only doing, and that is that their point is that they have to do by force on the other person. That's not what I recommend with acting. So this is a great acting question. It's asking how to stay open to the acting partner. Now, openness comes from something that's internal, and this comes from an element where you need to be willing to be able to receive something new. So even though you might have everything going on in your acting preparations and your emotional preparations, and it's going swimmingly, everything's great, it's all activated, it's the element of staying open to your partner and actually receiving them that's going to be able to really help you to be able to do the acting concept, really be able to receive them. But here's the thing about this. Staying open is not easy, especially sometimes when emotions come up, because emotions will come up and they will absolutely just frighten you. And what they'll do is they'll overcome you a little bit. And what it will be is it will be this whole thing where there'll be this restriction that you might feel because it's new to feel a certain type of emotion, or you have a new experience. And this is why staying open and acting is so important. So the real good question here is not an obvious answer at all. It's actually really difficult to stay open. So ask yourself why you want to stay open personally, right? So let's say you're in a scene with somebody, or a scene or an exercise, and your exercise is a situation where you set up that you have a relationship with the person and you're both roommates. I know it's a simple one. And with your roommate situation, you're actually in a situation where, let's say you, well, let's just use an example that's fresh on my head. You both like the same guy, two female roommates, they both like the same guy. And they're wanting to have a relationship with that guy, or see which one of them is willing to ask the guy out, or try and get the guy to ask them out. And now that's a scenario that you could set up for a really good acting exercise. So the acting exercise is something that literally is the ability that you have so that you can start to work with those types of emotions. And you'll set those relationships up typically in the intermediate class, in intermediate classrooms. And this is something that, hold on a second. this is something that is extremely interesting because, well, you set the relationships up so you can explore and find new parts of yourself. So you're finding and exploring new parts of yourself, which is great. And the thing is what that will actually do is it should help you to be able to keep open and acting, because you want to be able to keep open and you want to be willing to keep open. And if you're struggling to keep open in your acting, you might actually need to have a reason to keep open. You might have to give yourself some sort of motivation quality to be able to keep open. And that is totally, absolutely viable. This is exactly the way that you develop your craft in acting. And you're developing your craft in acting by being able and capable and willing. And you've got to give yourself a purpose of why you're willing. Well, if you're a roommate with somebody and you both like the guy, and you're waiting to try and flirt with him to see if he'll ask you out, one of you first or whatever, right? Well, that's a scenario that you might have set up. Now, you could add another motivation that could help you keep your emotional level open, right? It can help you keep your emotional level open. If it keeps your emotional level open, it's a great excuse to include. So you can add that to your relationship, or you can add that to your acting setup. And that would be a fine, fine, fine idea about how to be able to keep yourself more open. So that does help to answer the question of how do you stay more open to your acting partner. Now, that's in a context of a relationship. I'm kind of sensing that this might be coming from somebody that's in the intermediate section of the acting work. And the intermediate section of the acting work is key. And not to interrupt myself, but if you have any questions, ask them in the comments section, either now or later, and they can be answered either off the live stream or on. And now, there's other ways to keep yourself open and acting. And keeping yourself open and acting is there's a really, really good way, and it's called being vulnerable. So let's say you are completely livid at your roommate for doing something, and that's the setup of the relationship that you've actually set up in your acting class. That's fine. It works. It's good. You're livid. You've got a strong point of view. That's perfect. Absolutely perfect to have a strong point of view. It's good. It's direct. You've got a strong point of view and you've got some determination behind you. You've got some conviction. This is great. Well, I would suggest that if you have a strong point of view, a strong conviction, that you also, but you're finding that you are having problems staying open to your acting partner, I would suggest that you literally have the ability to add an element that's vulnerability. So you add something that's actually is something that's vulnerable in you. So you've added something that's making you vulnerable. And this is key because when you're doing this, you're capable of adding an element that's going to, by default, keep you more open. So you kind of want to include another element within your emotional preparation or within your acting setup that you want to be willing to and able to actually how do you make yourself more vulnerable to the circumstance? So you're opening yourself up by default because you're giving yourself some really, really, really good ability to be vulnerable and open and very, very clear. And this is excellent way to be able to work. So A lot of people don't think to do that, and they really miss out. And if you add something like, say, for instance, like you set up that scenario, you've got two female roommates, and they're both after some guy, and they want the guy to ask them out, and that's the setup. And then included in that setup, that maybe isn't the setup between the two actors, but on your own setup, you could set up a vulnerability, like you still owe your roommate's brother something, or an object, or something that's sentimental, or you've done something wrong to their family, and now all of a sudden you've done something wrong with the family, and you basically have some element there that's beautiful. You put yourself in a place where you're a little bit behind the eight ball, and you've done that using acting craft. So you've used your acting craft to really be able to determine and decipher something that's actually going to make you more emotionally available. It's going to make you more vulnerable. It's going to make you more open. It's going to make you more subtle. It's going to make you that you want to listen to the other person more because you've added that element. So that's a great question. We'll go on to another question a little bit, and make comments in the comment section, even if you're finding this and it's not live. Make a comment, ask questions, really good questions. Ask me anything, AMA, on emotional preparation or acting. And again, I have seen between 30,000 and 40,000 is the minimum that I have seen. I know it's a big range, but I've seen so many things in acting, and it's been with well over 35 teachers in every single level of Meisner work. So, this is a way to be able to get maybe some different answers, some different points of view that maybe you didn't think of yourself, and your ability to really explore how you want to build your own acting technique, because it's not about having somebody else's acting technique. It's really about developing your own. Okay, let's take a short break here, and I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Thanks for being here, and thanks for watching this on the replays. We are going to go and field some acting questions, and the acting questions are going to be able to help you find your own acting technique. So the point of this is not about trying to basically have me show all of my acting stuff. My point is to be able to help. I will be more than willing to do that, but I want to be able to help you be able to find and harness how to put emotion into acting. Emotion in acting is so different than feelings. Feelings are inclinations. Feelings are the inclinations of acting. They're the instincts that will pick up things. They're the feelings are the inclinations that will actually happen when you're working. And what I've witnessed over the years is that many people do what they think is emotional preparation, and they try to chase their feelings. Now, look, it can sometimes work. You can sometimes catch your feeling. If your feeling comes in and you're trying to catch your feeling, that's very common. Very common when you're starting out to be able to learn emotional preparation. And to be quite honest with you, I really appreciate the reality of that. I appreciate seeing that in the classes and working to be able to help people as a teacher, to be able to identify elements that have deeper feelings. So a lot of times what will happen in the work is that somebody will have some kind of fleeting feeling. They'll have an inclination and they'll try to emotionally prepare on this inclination. And the inclinations are they're like instincts. They're extremely valuable in their own way, but you want to be able to use them so that they are more like a river or a stream that collects into a lake of emotion. So if you can imagine, when it rains, everything rains, it's very nice, and it goes, streams all collect to the lake. You don't want to work from the stream where there's something that's too fast to be able to catch, to be able to put in your work. You want to work from the actual lake, the emotional lake. So just like life, you basically want to be able to find and mine your emotional lakes. You want to be able to go into yourself and you want to be able to discover where your emotions are and be able to mine where those are and find those pockets of emotion. So you're literally finding those pockets of emotion where you can actually tap into, get the emotion, and then you can drive elements through it. Like you can add motivations that can help to carry all of that emotion, or as much as possible, to your work, into your work, and then you can rely on completely relaxing it and knowing that it's still active in you. So even though you relax in your emotional preparation and you relax into your acting, all of a sudden you might have jarring, tense moments because the emotions come back into you. It's alive. It's actually activated. You've activated your emotion. So the elements of emotional preparation is key. I mean, if you look at work where people do emotional preparation and you look at work where people don't do emotional preparation, you will actually find that you can see the big difference. And a lot of times, audiences may not see the difference, but they can absolutely be able to feel the difference. When I say feeling, that there's something, there's an inclination to the audience that the actor didn't really get to see. There's something that's activated where they know that something's just not exactly, something hasn't really been gotten. It hasn't really worked. There's something that hasn't really jarred. The writer writes the scene. And this is important to remember, that the writer writes the scene and the actor emotionally prepares to be able to activate something inside of them, a real, actual activation. And they activate something inside of them. And then it stirs something up. It wakes something up. And then the actual technique is to be willing and able to have the craft of acting, the ability to be able to take that woken thing up and even as it's sparking off in you, It could be a rage. It could be a whole bunch of tears coming out of it. And then instead of worrying about yourself and focusing on that spark that's going off, then working to put your attention on something that you can receive. And then what happens when you're capable of doing that is you are actually able to start to get this almost like a vacuum of interest into the work. You're sparking your interest. You're capable of being able to activate, which is a skill. Then you're willing to relax into the emotion. You're willing to be see. It's very interesting. You really have to be willing to let go of your logic. Now, logic is an incredible topic in acting, and I have to make a note. It's very, very vital. Logic is this thing that often it's literally, there's this moment that happens. Now, again, I have seen between 30,000 and 40,000 acting exercises, which is a lot of work. And when I'm watching and studying, I'm looking to see if the student or the actor, if the student or the actor is capable of taking that leap into the real-time experience of the scene without knowing what's going to happen fully. This is the element of acting, which is excellent. It's excellent. You want to practice this. I don't care if you see this on the replay. I don't care if you have to send this to some friends. But here's the reality of this. There's this thing called logic. And when you have logic, it blocks you from being able to fully experience the imaginary circumstances. So it's a wonderful topic. It's a really, really wonderful topic. Now, most times what will happen is that the students will work in the scenes. And I'm talking about famous people, not famous people. It's a mixture. And they will absolutely be in a place where a lot of times they'll have some emotion go off of them, and then they'll think that that's them doing the work. Well, and they haven't really experienced the imaginary circumstance. So it does happen like that sometimes. But what I'm describing is a fluid technique. You get your technique down just right so that you literally have this technique where you activate your emotion, and just before entering the imaginary circumstances, you give your logic to your partner, and you literally just enjoy the sleigh ride. So it's a sleigh ride of an imaginary circumstance, and the only thing to focus on at that moment is you just don't focus on anything logical. You literally just receive your partner. You receive the partner. You're a receiver, your partner. Now, what will happen when you receive your partner after emotionally preparing is wonderful, amazing things. And this is incredible to understand. It will further your acting technique. You will be able to you will start to be able to actually access your emotion every single time. That's how technique actually works. And that's the reason to be able to use technique. Okay, so let's look here, see if there's anything else. And then we will go to a question. Okay. Okay, and remember this is delayed. there is a definite delay on this live feed. So if you have a question and you're asking it, you might want to wait 60 seconds or a minute and a half or something, and I can then make sure I've gotten the question. I'm still learning to set these things up, which is fine too. So here is another question. All right, this is a good one. Mr. Blake, I've been on film sets before doing parts, and they don't give me any time to do emotional preparation. What do you suggest? This is a great question. This is a pretty good question. I'm going to repeat it one more time. It says, Mr. Blake, I've been on film sets before doing parts, and they don't give me any time to do emotional preparation. What do you suggest? Okay, let's take this question. This is a great question. Let me write this down here so that everybody can see it, and then I will answer it. Question. Okay, let me highlight this so we have the question. Okay, so this is the question. Look, the reality of this is that you on film sets, you may or may not have an understanding situation when it comes to emotional preparation. Everybody wants emotion, and this is why it's kind of key in auditioning. You want to work the way you actually do acting in your auditions. If you work with emotional preparation, you want to work with emotional preparation in your auditions. It's important. You need to be able to absolutely you can do this a couple of different ways. What I would suggest is that you actually put the hold on a second. Okay, sorry. Here we go. So you actually want to put the you want to do some of your emotional preparation before you get actually on the film set. That's what I recommend. This is the easiest way to handle the situation. And then you reactivate the emotional preparation right before the take. And you sometimes only have the slightest time to do it. And you can only do your best timing to do that. Now, if you're working with a director or a really good director that knows how to be able to work with emotion, which there's some, and there's other people that just expect you to have the emotion there because they're working at a certain pace and everybody knows that they're doing emotional preparation outside of the set, and then they come in and they reactivate it. So you wonder why some of the stars can reactivate they can do emotional preparation so quickly. It's because they're working on their emotional preparation in their trailer or in the space that they have in the holding room or whatever, wherever you're working or waiting to work. So I would suggest that you do your emotional preparation work literally at the point where you warm it up before getting to the film set. Now, this brings up something that, well, I'll tell you, I call it and have called it for years, simmering emotional preparation. And I have on my website, emotional preparation, I have scenes that, I have materials that talk about simmering emotional preparation. And it literally is, you do your emotional preparation. It could be the night before, it could be before class, it could be 2 or 3 hours before you work. And you start to warm up your emotional engine. So you start doing your activation work to get your emotions activated, get them working, get that element working within yourself. And when you're able to do that, then you're capable of being able to start to achieve all kinds of things. Because then when somebody asks you, well, you're ready to work, right? They're expecting you to be there ready to work. A lot of film people don't care about emotion. They think that everything's going to be taken care of for them in editing. Some actors will show up on set and they say, listen, I'm here. Can we do this in 20 minutes so this get the takes and I'm out? And it's not because they've emotionally prepared and they want that alive thing to only work for 20 minutes, or they think that that's their emotional preparation. They're saying that just because that's how little they respect some of the people that they work with on set, unfortunately. But the thing is that not everyone's like that. And the thing is that when you're dealing with being professional, you're dealing with the ability to be able to gain the emotion needed for that scene as close as you can to when the production actually needs it. So there's a couple things that you can do. Now, you can take the approach. You can literally pull the director aside and say, listen, I'm not trying to bother you or anything, but look, I work with my emotions a little bit. Is there time before doing the take that I can do that, or do you have any suggestions? Now, sometimes this will open up a whole can of worms that you don't want to go through, because maybe the director doesn't know as much about emotional preparation as you do, and they're going to say that they want to coach you on it. Maybe that's an experience that would be great. So you're taking your chances to be able to ask for help like that, but at the same time, it might turn out to be really, really, really good. It might end up being a whole new relationship with an artistic or creative relationship that would be amazing. Now, the director might be too busy, or they might say, yeah, let's work. Let's work on that the night before. And they'll schedule to come into your trailer or work in with you or schedule a time. And then you can work on your emotional preparation with the director and or the assistant director, whoever it is that they assign them. They'll assign people to you to be able to work with that. They might tell you, don't worry about that. You're already doing well. Okay? Well, then do well. Go ahead and do well. But still do your emotional preparation. And understand that simmering emotional preparation is going to be your saving grace, because you might have this incredible anger that you need to have for the take. You might have this incredible any kind of emotion, for the take. Now, when you got that emotion and you're working to be willing to get it, you're in a place where you've got to be certain that it really matches the material, that you're going to activate something that's different than the imaginary circumstance of the material. That's a big thing to know and to consider. So you're activating something that's different than the imaginary circumstance. And the reason for that is because you want to be able to have this ability to be able to come back out of your emotion when you go into emotion and it gets really, really intense. So, of course, you want to work with your feelings, you want to work with this, but you really absolutely want and to be able to get in your own talent level, you want to be able to achieve the ability to simmer emotional preparation. So that was a great question. Really, really good question. All right, so let's take one more minute break here if I can find the thing. Um, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up with another question or two. And if you're in the comments, know that it's a 60 seconds delay. And tell your friends about this. Look, I am opening myself up completely. I know a lot about acting. I know a ton about different things. I need good questions, and then it will pull the information that I know out so you have it. So it's out there because a lot of things I have learned, and I have really, really, um, you just learn things and you learn layers of things. And I've got like layers and layers. I mean, these are just some of my notebooks and stuff. You know, there's just so much to acting that it's really important. It's really key. I'm really absolutely opening myself up so that you as the audience can actually pull the information from me that I know is in there. So, and I teach that way too. I really try and make sure that the students can actually pull the information out. Okay, I'll see you back here in a little bit. Hi, welcome back. We are going to look at another question for acting and emotional preparation. Now, look, emotions and emotional preparation, it is the absolute height of abilities to be able to attain an acting. If you can get and obtain your ability to do acting with emotion, you know that you've really started to be able to actually practice and rehearse and do acting in a way that's really fantastic. So let's look at this question here. It is Simon. When you talk about getting emotion, how and where do you find it? Okay, so let me highlight the question. Okay, so we have a question here. Question. Okay, so this question it's a good question. It's a good question. Now, you're asking a couple of things in this question. When I talk about emotion, okay, well, when I talk about emotion, I'm not talking about trying to get a feeling that's going to immediately leave you once you've got it. This is key. This is absolutely key. I don't want anybody to sit there and get a feeling, work hard to get a feeling, and then not have the feeling show up in their acting. So, this is why I talk about emotion. I talk about emotion because it's emotion. The emotion gets activated in you, the emotion stays within you, and then the emotion becomes part of the work. So you're literally capable of effecting, huge amounts of the work very loosely, very freely, without controlling it, because you've activated an emotion, not just a feeling. So this is the first part of the question. That's fantastic. So when you talk about getting emotion, that's when I talk about getting emotion. That's why I talk about getting emotion. Emotion is everything in acting. It's everything. Now, the other part is how and where do I find emotion? Good question. Good question. Where I find emotion is not going to be where you find emotion. It might be, but it might not be. So, where I find emotion will be, well, I find emotion a few different places myself. I find emotion in past history. I find my emotion in past acting exercises. I find my emotion in my imagination. So those are three places that I can tell you for sure I find emotion. It's I really like the scenarios of what if, right? The what if scenario. Now, what if is what if I didn't have a job? What if I didn't have this? What if something in my life had majorly changed? What if what if I had decided to go to school to become a dentist? What if? What if? What if I had have done this? What if I had have done that? Now, I can do exercises like that all day, and would not be bored. I would be ecstatic, and sometimes I do. Sometimes I do emotional preparations a lot during the day, and sometimes I tell people about it. Sometimes I don't. So the reality is, I continuously work to be able to find different places where I find emotion, right? And any of these little things that kind of stimulate, emotionally stimulate, that's what I really want to look at. That's what I really want to do. This is the way to be able to move forward. Now, how do I find emotion? How do I find emotion? Wow, good question. Now, I find emotion through concentrating on those elements, basically, of where. So I would find emotion. How I would find emotion is I would sit down in a very quiet place. Now, when I sit down in a quiet place, sometimes I will do emotional preparations outside around people to practice my acting. I should make a video about that. Basically, I will sit and do an emotional preparation and then play around with how that stimulates me. How does that change my beliefs, cycles, all that stuff? That's fun. It's fun. It's really fun. What else? It's something to do with acting. Now, the more healthy thing to be, well, I mean, well, it's not unhealthy. It's just the thing is that you want to be careful that's not all you're doing. So you could do that, but you probably want to limit it. Like I don't do it all the time, but that would be something that I would be open to doing if that was something that was something I wanted to do to be able to get some kind of emotion for the part. So I'm capable of getting emotion for the part. I'm capable of being able to like basically quiet myself down a little bit just to get less stimulation in life. I focus very little on life when I'm focusing on acting, which is another key. Um, it's very, very key. You want to focus very little on life when you focus on acting. And then what you can do is, and this is why it's so key, it's such a key thing. You literally receive, you focus on receiving the other person. All of a sudden, everything's in receiving the other person. There's reactions that come out of you and they'll just automate themselves. And then you receive the other person and you keep putting your attention on so that you can receive them. You're there to do that. And then when something hits you, when you're needed to, then you express it. And it's so fluid that way. And so how do I achieve emotion would be quieting myself down, entering into places of relaxedness, really working on being able to activate those elements. And I activate the how of how I achieve emotion is I activate by isolating. So I'm isolating emotional preparation. I isolate an emotion. Then I come up with multiple ideas that would fit into that emotion. So I absolutely will work hard, not just to get one idea. I want to be very certain that I'm actually able to and capable of getting that kind of emotion. So I get the emotion. I work to be able to get the emotion by activating it. And I try to work, and so this is the how to get emotion. I try to work to find more than one way to get that emotion activated. And what I will actually do many times when I'm working with emotion, if I can go to one element and I can activate my emotion, I work, activate that emotion. That emotion activates inside of me. Great. Then take a break or I just take a breath. Either way, I go to the next idea in the same emotional ballpark and I work to be able to activate the emotion using another technique. Now, let's say that's working for me. I can feel the activations going on. I can feel that there's emotion happening. I can feel I'm clicking something right now. I don't know what it is. I have to sit down and really work on it. But the thing is that you catch it, you get the thing working. And then the thing works a little bit, and then you want to work it, you get it working, then you go to the next idea, you activate that, you get that thing working. Then I might also work to go into my imagination. So I will go to the next one. How would I get emotion? I will go to the next element. What's the next element? I would get an element of a what if. What if I had different circumstances this way, that way, another way, another way? Would that activate the emotion of the emotional ballpark that I'm looking to get? If I can answer yes, that it would activate the emotion, then I know I'm onto something. If I can feel that there's something more alive in me after concentrating on that element, then I know that how I got the emotion was authentic. I can know that how I got the emotion is going to stay with me in my acting work. It's not going to be something that leaves. And then I can know that I can trust that even if the topic of my acting work isn't exactly, sometimes it will very much directly be involved. But even if it's not, I know that I will still have an active preparation working on for me. So the real hint there that I'm giving to do and how to work with emotion is I'm looking at being able to get multiple ways. So I'm not usually when I emotionally prepare, I look at one thing, let this activate, work on it. Then I see something working. I want reassurance that I'm actually activating the emotional preparation. I don't want to get to a scene where I don't have the desired emotion. So I work and add another element and reignite something different in the same emotional ballpark. So it's a great question. And it really does get my gears working too. And trying to answer these questions are something that's absolutely, absolutely important. Um, uh, so please, absolutely join me on YouTube, ask questions in the chat, interact with me, understand how important that question was. It's a great question. How to activate emotion and how to be certain that you're putting emotion in your work, not feeling, not an inclination. So, listen, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm doing from 2 to 3 o'clock, unless there's reason to go further. And right now, we're going to wrap up today. And I want to thank you. Thank you for watching this program. Tell your friends about it. Comment in the comment section. And absolutely, let's work on emotional preparation together. Find me on my website. Thanks very much.